I love playing on my Xbox, but after hearing some of these stories, I'm definitely playing with all of the lights in my house turned on next time I do. Welcome back, my fellow gamers. I'm your host, Amanda McKnight, and this is Top 10 Gaming. For all of my Xbox fans out there, I have some scary stories that'll likely also cause you to make sure all your lights are on and all exits accessible before jumping on to play games on your console. Join me as we count down the top 10 scariest Xbox creepypastas that will make you cry. Make sure you have tissues nearby just in case, and join me as we get counting. Number 10, an invitation. I don't play online anymore, this is why. I had received an invite from a friend to join their party. They were about to jump into a game of Call of Duty online and wanted me to join. I accepted the request, but when I got to the party I realized I didn't recognize anyone there. It was then I noticed the name of the person who had invited me was similar to my friends, but not quite the same. In the place of the E in their name there was a 3, and I had somehow misread that when I accepted. Hello? I spoke into the mic? I think I joined by mistake? Sorry. Then I noticed that all the names, while different, were all similar actually to close friends of mine that I usually played with online. I heard heavy breathing coming from the mic of the person who had invited me, and then all the users also joined in, breathing heavily into their microphones as well. They began to chant, and then a sharp and loud screech was heard in my headset. I went to exit, but before I could, my Xbox crashed. Number 9. The glitch. Any games with ghosts James was a fan of. He loved horror games. The more scary, the better. He had played tons of different ones and had a strong collection of spooktacular games on his Xbox. One night he was playing Blair Witch when it glitched out on him, not giving him any options for what to do next. He couldn't find himself able to interact with anything in the game. He tried to persevere but was ultimately attacked by the trees and died because he couldn't fight. He decided to give up for the night and went to bed, but as he pulled back the covers, he noticed a little white corner of a Polaroid picture tucked under his sheet. He grabbed it, flipped it over, and saw himself standing as he was in front of the bed, but from behind. On the back of the picture it read James. His eyes widened, and he spun around in circles, looking all around him. It was just like in the game. "Hello?" he called out. "If anyone's here, leave now, I'm calling the police." He reached over to grab his phone charging on the bedside table, but before he could dial 911, he noticed a red light emanating from beneath his closet. Unable to resist, he walked over to the door and slowly opened it. As though he were in a daze, he stepped into the closet and became lost in the wilderness, voices whispering eternally in his head. Number 8. You have been warned. If you find a game on your doorstop for the Xbox, do not play it. Do not take it in. Beware. I received a game mysteriously this way and put it in my Xbox only to find that the game seemed to take place in our own world and predicted awful things happening such as murders, natural disasters, and personal tragedies in my own life. At first I thought it was cool, some sort of custom experience game that somehow used your location and a few details you provided to create a world almost similar to your own but darker. But then I realized this game was something more. It made bad things happen, awful things. I tried to destroy it, but everything has since only gotten worse. I have no home now and I live on the street. I believe because I took in this game. Any game you find that is unnamed should not be played. You have been warned. Number 7. The Red Ring of Death. I had always heard people complain about the Red Ring of Death. Their 360s died because they basically overheated or were too old and dusty, but I never thought much about why the name was chosen. Obviously the power button on your Xbox goes red, with the Red Ring of Death being the ring that appears on it. So it made sense. Not much to think about there. But the origin story of the Red Ring is actually much darker than that. I heard from a friend of mine that the real story actually had to be covered up, and that the glitch to your Xbox was even possibly introduced because of this original true story. It's a cover-up basically that was used to deflect from the truth. Apparently someone became so addicted to playing their Xbox 360 when it first came out that all they did was play games day in, day out, and they lost their mind as a result. They began carving the letter X into themselves all over and worshipping their Xbox as though it were a god. Eventually they kidnapped people and brought them home to sacrifice them them to the console, strangling them to death with twine, leaving a thin red line around their neck. When this homicidal maniac was found out, it was referred to as the Red Ring of Death case because of how they'd murdered their victims. But all of that was hidden, and the glitch that destroyed your system was actually introduced so that the phrase could take on a new, much less sinister but still annoying meaning. Number 6. Join us. I bought a refurbished Xbox online, not wanting to spend all the money for something new. A friend of mine had done this and I found the console they owned was completely fine, so I thought I'd try out the whole refurbished thing for myself. I saved a good amount of money on my purchase, so I was pretty happy about that, and when I went to play on the console, everything seemed normal. Success, I thought, but then a while later I decided to revisit one of my favorite games, Skyrim. I'd played it many times before and loved it, but there was something different about this playthrough. One of the NPCs I saw looked just like me. I shrugged it off as a coincidence until I found a town where every NPC looked just like me. It was a whole town filled with avatars that looked identical to me. Freaked out, I went to leave the town, considering I should maybe stop playing. But before I could get out of there, they all started to shout and point at me. "Don't leave! You can't! Join us!" They continued to all shout before attacking me. Number 5. Project Console. I had signed up for a job working in games. I'd loved video games ever since I was young, so this was a dream job. This job was to help advance new technology that changed the way we could experience, interact with, and view games. It was all very mysterious as to how this tech company planned to do that, but they promised they were working towards an entirely new, immersive experience in the employment ad that I had read. So I eagerly applied. I made it through all the interview rounds, and it was down to myself and another candidate. In the end, I was chosen because my voice was more soothing and would make people feel more at ease, they said, when being integrated into this new gaming experience. We began work on the project, and it was said that I would become the guide for those gamers joining this new revolutionary wave of gameplay. I was sent to a room down the hall to get started on my first day. When I entered, it was pitch black. I stumbled around for a light and heard someone tell me to stand still. I heard a shuffling, and then I felt a sharp pain in my side. "Your life will help to tether the others," a voice said from the dark. I felt down to where the pain was in my side and felt a knife handle sticking out of it. I now reside within a console, able to connect to people via this technology. Soon, against my will, others will join me on this new plane of existence. Number 4. Be careful what you wish for. Online FPSs had always been my thing, but I was new to Battle Royale style games like Fortnite. Still, I had heard the game was awesome and I loved playing online, so I thought I would try it out on my Xbox. However, it felt like the learning curve was pretty steep when I was playing, as I was quite new to the game. I wasn't very good at building, and I didn't really know where was the best place to drop to start. After playing for a few hours, I was getting frustrated by the fact that I wasn't seeing much improvement in my play. "I wish I could just get better," I exclaimed aloud. "Why is this so hard?" Still, I persevered. In the next match I played, I finally felt like I was finding my stride and found myself on a hot streak. The match ended up coming down to me and one other player, and I was confident I was going to win. However, I experienced some lag that cost me the match. Frustrated, I tossed my controller down and I cursed, "Not fair! I wish they had died. I was so close to winning." Just then I heard something in my headset. "Granted," a gravelly voice whispered. I watched as the other player's avatar, who was cheering with celebration, was decapitated by a spinning scythe coming onto the screen. The next day I heard in the news about a young gamer who had been playing Fortnite and suddenly collapsed and died. Number 3. Avatar Swap. I was obsessed with making my avatar appear like me, driven to try and make it look as realistic as possible, and match me and my style as much as it possibly could. Each month I changed it and spent hours on editing and creation, weighing every choice carefully. I learned of a service where you could send in pictures of yourself and they would custom make an avatar model for you to use in game. I'd never heard of it before, but it looked legit, so I decided to give it a try. A week passed and I finally received a USB key in the mail, with instructions to insert it into my Xbox to have the custom avatar uploaded. As I plugged it into the Xbox, I felt an electric shock shoot up my arm. Instinctively, I went to pull my hand back, but I found it was stuck in the Xbox somehow, being sucked into the console. I now live here as my avatar, finally the perfect match to my likeness because I am myself. Something stares back at me in my place from the couch, playing games every now and then, but whatever it is not me. It can't be. Number 2. Life's Little Achievements. Sims 4 has always been one of my favorite games. I have it for every platform imaginable. I play it on my phone, my Xbox, my PC. I just can't get enough. My parents even worried for a while that I cared more about my Sims' lives than my own. But as time went on, I found it only inspired me to be more diligent with my own growth and progress in real life. Each task completed, each moment lived, each memory captured in my life felt like I was making progress, like a little milestone or achievement in the Sims game. This satisfaction meant I was playing less and less as life became more fun and Sims felt more like a distraction from it. It was like life was a game, a really fun game. I had just gotten a promotion at work, and to celebrate, one of my friends invited me over to her place for a pool party. I brought my swimsuit and some hot dog buns as we were going to be barbecuing as well. We all jumped in the pool, swimming around, and just relaxing. It was nice, until something shifted. The pool felt deeper. A sense of panic rose up in me. I looked around. There was no way out. The stairs we'd come in on were gone. The ladder and diving board were also gone, and the pool had become deeper. It was impossible to reach a ledge and climb out. After hours, I became exhausted, too tired and stressed to continue. I felt myself finally slip beneath the surface. Number 1. Xbox Live. This creepypasta comes to us from the Silicon Lemming, and oh my goodness, is it a good one. I'm so excited to share it with you. I'm writing this as I sit in front of my TV. My avatar stares back at me waving. A week ago I was playing on my Xbox when I was invited to a party by someone whose username didn't pop up. Foolishly, I accepted, only to discover that I was the only other person in the chat. That is, there was a duplicate of me. I thought it was a glitch until I heard my own voice echo back to me in a different tone, eventually even speaking different words and threatening to come after me. Saying words that I hadn't said, I was of course disturbed by the presence of this other voice and ended up logging off. I took a break but eventually returned to play. However, after looking away from the screen momentarily, when I looked back, I saw my avatar appearing far closer than normal up on the monitor. Its hands were held up to the screen as though it was peering out at me. As I locked eyes with the avatar, it pointed at me before dragging its finger across its throat. I was understandably terrified, and it was then that my Xbox began to smoke and melt. I wasn't able to turn it back on and had to send it over for repairs. I waited to plug it back in once it was returned because, well, I was understandably nervous about doing so. But telling myself it had probably all been part of some kind of bigger glitch which had undoubtedly fried my Xbox, I plugged it in today. I saw I had tons of voice messages awaiting me when I logged on, my own voice playing back to me when I checked them, asking where I had gone, and then one that said they were coming to get me. My avatar waves back, but its gaze seems to be focused on something behind me. Which Xbox creepypasta scares you the most? What is the scariest one you have ever heard? Or do you have one of your own that you would like to share? Feel free to share your scary stories and your feels in the comments below. This has been Top 10 Gaming, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you to keep on gaming on. Pew pew!